This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
How would you like to get more customers, make more profits, and have bigger breakthroughs? Get Doberman Dan's profit boosting breakthroughs. Normally this would cost you $98 per month, but right now, for listening to this show, he's giving you a free copy of his Doberman Dan letter. All you have to do is go to DobermanDan.com and sign up to get your free copy now.
Prepare yourself for the uncensored, nothing held back, no BS reality of how business and life really work. Doberman Dan is off the chain.
You're listening to the Off the Chain show with your man Doberman Dan. Last week we had Russell Brunson on, and he was just getting ready to give up some of his webinar secrets. And guess what? He's back today for part 2 of that interview. So let's jump into it.
I don't know if it's still true, but initially you did every webinar to promote ClickFunnels. You did it live. These weren't replays. So my question is, why? What did you find, or what motivated you, or what results motivated you to do it live instead of just on one of the times you really nail it, just using that as a replay?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So I get asked that a lot by my coaching clients, like, because they always do one webinar, like, hey, I'm gonna automate it. I'm like, yeah, well, you can, but like, if you're trying to build an empire and change the world, like, you got to keep doing it live. So kind of the backstory. So I, pre-webinars, pre-teleseminars, like, I was a Dan Kennedy guy, and I remember going to a Kennedy event and going to Armin Morin events, all these events, 10, 12 years ago, and watching these guys get on stage, right? And they'd get on stage, they do a presentation, and I'd watch as people would run to the back of the room and throw down money. And it was like the most fascinating thing for me. And first time I tried to do it, I humiliated myself and did not sell anything. And it was like the worst feeling ever. And I was like, I will never try to sell from stage again. But then I kept seeing people do it. And I was like, I got to learn this skill. So I spent probably 3 or 4 years like on the road, speaking on stages, trying to learn this craft. And so like that's my background. I was flying out probably 2 or 3 times a month somewhere around the country, around the world, and I'd go and I'd speak and I'd give my presentation. And what was cool about it, like we were doing it that consistently for different audiences, like you notice something about like when you're seeing an audience out there, you're noticing different things. You notice what they respond to, what they don't, and you like, and you can feel it on a webinar, but you can really feel it live with people there, right? And so like I was doing that, and every single week I tweak the web presentation, I tweak it, and like I kept tweaking it, and over 2 or 3 years, it got better and better and better to the point where I knew I could walk into a room and like the promoter, like I'd land at the airport and I'd call him like, how many attendees are there, and I would know exactly what my paycheck was going to be coming back out. I knew
nice.
Like, to a T what my close rate would be, how much I'd make, and like because I did it so many times live. And then we shift to the webinar world, and what happens is people do webinar once, it does good, and then they just automate it, and then they stop. And I look at when we launched ClickFunnels, the first launch, actually, I don't know if you knew this, it was a huge flop, like nobody bought, which is really depressing. So I was like, I created this thing I thought was going to change the world. So I did the funnels 3 or 4 times before like the one that ended up blowing up took off. And because I hadn't planned on selling it through webinar, but Mike Filsame loved ClickFunnels. And he was doing an event at the time. He said, I want you to come and sell ClickFunnels at my event. I'm like, dude, nobody's buying it. And right now it's a free trial. Like I can come to your event, but I don't think it's going to do good. He's like, no, you got to create $1,000 version and sell at my event from stage. And I was like, so it kind of, I went back to my old slides from back in the day and kind of, dusted off my presentation skills. And I wrote a new presentation based on, the way that I structured things in the past. And then I flew out to his event, got on stage, and I did this presentation, and not knowing what would happen or not happen, I did the presentation and it hit. Like it worked. I had one of the biggest table rushes I'd had in a long time. People were running to the back, and I was like, okay, that was the right messaging. And so signed up a bunch. I think we closed like 33% of the room, and I was pretty excited about that. And the next morning I was, I had a stack of order forms. I was leaving the hotel to fly out, and I met a lady in the lobby, and she's like, hey, Russell, that presentation was awesome. Like, thanks so much for coming and sharing. She's like, I wish I could use ClickFunnels, but I'm a coach. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I'm a coach, so I can't use ClickFunnels. You were showing how people use it when they sell supplements. I wish I sold supplements, but I'm a coach.
Oh, man.
I was like, really? I'm like, no, like you can use ClickFunnels for like I'm a coach, and I coach people, and like I've got coaching funnels, like. And she's like, are you serious? And I showed her my coaching funnel. I'm like, this funnel right here, and I showed her the numbers. She's like, are you kidding me? I didn't know that. And she's like, my friends and I, we all wanted, but we couldn't do it. So she's like, don't leave. So she ran in and grabbed 3 of her friends. They ran the back, filled out the order forms, ran back out, handed me the order forms as I'm leaving the hotel. I was like, huh. Like if I would have taken that webinar and left it, how many at this point, tens of millions of dollars would I have lost because of that, right? So on the flight home, I'm thinking through this. So I take one of my slides and I change. I say, okay, this works for webinar funnel, but also works for coaching funnels. I started thinking like, who else did I alienate by the way I did my presentation? Well, it works for network marketing funnels. It works for, and I showed examples of a whole bunch of different types of funnels to try to cover like the majority of the people. And so I got back home and, on my flight to the airport, I'm texting everyone I know, like, this webinar is hot. Like, you guys got to promote it. So I got people lining up. So next week I had two people actually the same day doing a webinar, and both of them had almost like to the T, the same amount of people that were registered. It was like within 50 or 60 registrants, right? And so I do the webinar. First one was like at 11 o'clock in the morning, my time. So I do the webinar and we did well. We did like $30,000 in sales. And then I had the next webinar 4 hours later. And so I'm kind of sitting there waiting and I'm like, what should I do? And how can I make this better? And I look down and I see, and go to webinar, you can export all the questions that people had submitted. So I export the questions. I start reading through all these questions and I see all these spots where people are getting stuck and they're confused. I'm like, oh. And so I'm looking at all this, I'm like, holy crap, like, this slide, everyone's stuck. So I go and I tweak that slide and then I'm like, they're stuck here. And then I get the offer, like all these people are confused because they don't have a product. Like, what do they do? So I changed the slide and I started going through as quick as I could during that 4 hour window. And I changed the slides and tweaked some stuff, jump on the next webinar. And this webinar actually had less people than the one earlier that day, did the same webinar. And instead of doing $30,000 in sales, we did $120,000 in sales on that one.
Holy smokes.
And I was like, holy crap, I'm onto something. And so then I exported all the questions from that one and then I tweaked it and I went back through and I started doing that every single week for a year and a half. And every single week for a year and a half, we consistently drove people to the same webinar. We did the webinar, exported the things, made the tweaks, and got better and better and better. To now it's the point where, like, first off, I know the webinar in my sleep. But second off, like, if you watch it, every one of your concerns will be answered like as you're having the concerns, because like I know what they are and it's flawless.
That's
now,
just beautiful, man. It's like perfect.
And I probably could have gone and automated earlier, but a couple of reasons why we didn't. The first thing is that we, like most of us marketers, the biggest problem we have is really good at creating offers. Then we get bored and we move on. Like we shelf it and we move on to the next offer. And that's why most entrepreneurs who are good at creating offers and stuff, they usually get stuck at somewhere between $1 and $3 million a year. And I know that because I was stuck there for like 5 years. Like that was where I was stuck and I could never break through there. It was because I was creating an offer, selling it, moving on, creating an offer, and I was just like, something's got to change. And I looked at the big companies that have gone to like tens or hundreds of millions. And I saw like the thing that they were good at is they all had like a product they got really good at selling to more people. And I was like, this company Clickfunnels, I think has legs. I think it's something that I believe in, that I think can change the world. And I was like, I'm gonna sell off. So at that point, we sold off all over the company, shut down all of their offers. And I was like, I'm just gonna do this webinar every single week and just see what happens from it. And so we started doing it, and we did the webinar over and over and over. And I look at, again, I was always stuck from $1 to $3 million a year. And I look at all my friends who I've tried to explain this process to, and they're like, no, we just do it once and we automate it, or we have other offers. And I look at them versus ours, and like we went from, and I don't know if this is a record, but I think it is, but we're not VC backed, like from a software company. You look at our company, year one, we did $10 million in sales. Year two, we did $30 million in sales. This year, I think we're on track to be able to 3X it again, like 3Xing 3 years in a row.
Wow.
I don't know anybody that's done that, even with like backing it with VC money, but we're going to do it because we have a front end that works. We're consistently driving new blood and new people into. And I think that if more people would do that. In fact, I had a super close friend, you would know him if I mentioned his name, messaged me the other day. He's like, man, I've been stuck at $3 million for 5 years in a row. And I laughed. I said, I can tell you exactly the reason why, but you're not going to believe me and you're not going to do it. He's like, no, man, I promise I will. And I explained this to him. I said, this is the process. You do a live webinar every single week for the next year, and you will be at $10 million. I guarantee you that. And he's like, I can't do that. I'm like, why not? He's like, well, my list is only going to listen, they're only going to listen to it once. I'm like, dude, this is not about your list. It's about bringing new blood and new people in. And what's interesting, just as far as like your organization as a whole, like when we know it's a webinar day, and like I have a webinar coming this Thursday and it'll be live, and I still do them live. What's cool is like, there's something about the live aspect, like everybody on my team knows about, like we get excited. We're up to almost 80 employees now. Like I message everybody through Voxer. I'm like, hey guys, we're doing a webinar today. It's going to be huge. Everyone's excited. There's this energy and excitement, and like everyone's focused on this thing. Like when the sales come through, we're telling everybody, everyone's excited. We're celebrating. And there's a different energy about that causes so much like team unity and growth. And like, I don't know what it is, but because that would make more money than when it's automated thing that nobody's ever looking at. I don't know why that works, but it's just like when we focus on things that grow, and like by keep doing those live webinars as a team, like it gets everyone focusing on the right thing, which is bringing new people in. And anyway, so
I love your enthusiasm for not just for the product, because I mean, let's face it, the product's kick ass, man. But I love your enthusiasm for the process too.
That's so fun. That's why this product's so good for me. You think about it, because like I've been a student of sales processes forever. I wrote a book on it. I'm actually trying to finish today my next book on the concept of selling and sales processes. Like I love it. And like ClickFunnels for me is so cool because it's a product where like I could geek out about sales process all day long, and I work on my sales process, and then other people it's like a dream come true for me.
It's awesome. I'm feeling the enthusiasm. So the process, this whole process of everything you just talked about, but specifically the webinar, the 3 years of hitting the road and speaking on stage. By the way, did you ever work with a coach who teaches how to sell from stage, or did you just do it yourself?
I worked with a lot of coaches. Yeah, I'm a big believer in coaching. I would say there's probably 12 different people I hired during those 3 years that I got pieces of what I know how to do now from them. So yeah.
Oh, holy smokes. Wow. 12 coaches.
I worked with Kennedy. I worked with Glazer. I worked with Ted Thomas. You name the good public speaking coaches. I've paid them all well.
So there's that, which was a really good decision. And then you just hitting the road and getting on the stage and doing it and learning from that, from the live audience thing. And then the year and a half was it a daily webinar or was it twice daily live webinars?
So we always had one every Thursday that we drove ads to. So that was always consistent. And then we had people setting up joint ventures throughout the week. So we had at least one a week. And oftentimes it was 2 or 3. I mean, I had a couple, 2 a day is hard to do. I had a couple days we did 3 in a day, which was like,
wow,
it was
exhausting.
Like one webinar now, like I'm done for the day. Like it beats me up. Like when I have a webinar day, like that's like one webinar kills me. But I did 2 and a couple times 3 in a day. But yeah, it's at least once a week where the whole week is focused on getting people. It's just like, I learned this from, I'm going to blank out right now. Oh crap. I feel bad. I just blanked out on the person's name, but,
it'll come to you the minute you stop thinking about it. Pardon?
Sorry, Mary Ellen Trivy. So
yeah.
So Mary Ellen, she went to a company. She went to Early to Rise, or she first went to Weiss Publishing, and they were doing like, I don't know, $7 or $8 million a year. She went in there within a year and a half, took them to like 80 million. Then she went to Early to Rise, same thing. They were $2 or $3 million a year, got them to like 50 or 60 within a year and a half. So I asked her, I'm like, how in the world do you like? What's your magic sauce? Because I would love for you to come sprinkle some on my business. And she looked at me and she kind of smiled. She said, you know what? She's like, internet marketers like you, Russell, you guys are so smart in one aspect and so stupid over here. She's like, you guys do the equivalent of like writing a Broadway show, right? You hire the best screenwriters in the world and the best actors, and you practice forever, and then you like put on this show in Boise, Idaho, because that's where you happen to live, and you promote it like crazy, and everyone shows up for opening night, and you do the show, and it's a smashing success. That night the curtains go down, and then you wake up in the morning, and you start writing your next play. And she's like, that's what you guys do with your product launches. Like that's the equivalent. She's like, all I do is I go and I take this show that you guys created that works, and I take it on the road. I take it to Chicago and LA and Florida, and I take it on the road. And so, for me, that's the same thing as like, it's just like, how do we get, like, we have a show every Thursday is a show. Like, so we spend the first half of the week, like, how do we get people to show up to register for this show? And the show happens on Thursday, and then we got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're doing replays, and it closes. And then Monday starts over, and it's like, how do we get people to the show? So I've got a whole marketing team on my side. There are goals, like, how do we get people to show up to the show that's coming up? We're going to be, and that's the goal. It's just consistently bringing people to the show. And for me, I mean, I didn't go from 8 to 80 in 18 months, but we went from 3 to 30 in a year, less than 2 years. So it's like that process is, I think that most marketers are so stuck in like, I have a list of people and I've got to create new offers to sell these people, because that's my life, to shifting that thinking to like, you've created an offer, you sold it to your people. Like, now how do we take this on the road? And that's how you grow a company without having to create a new product every single week. And when you and I have friends that's this, and I was on that cycle for a long time where every month you're rolling out a new product because that's the only way you know how to make money.
That's right.
It's exhausting.
It is exhausting. I like your model way better.
Yeah, I'd rather do a webinar once a week than a new offer every month, for sure.
Oh my gosh, for sure. So I mean, that is the model. That's the magic. There's no super duper secret traffic source. There's no super duper secret, whatever, secret sauce. That is the model. Drive traffic to the webinar, do the webinar live, right?
Yep. Do the webinar live, and then start over again next week and do it again. Build the show.
And take the questions and redo the slides.
Yeah, I just get better and better and better. And now, same thing. Like right now, like my guys will tell me on Thursday morning, they'll say it's time people register for the webinar, and then we always like try to guess. And like usually we're in like a couple $100 of what we'll be at, because I know.
Are you really? That's pretty. That is way cool.
Yep.
So have you noticed, I usually don't get into like super detailed stuff like this, but I'm just fascinated by this. Have you noticed a difference in conversion based on traffic source? Like when you say, hey man, we got X number of people from whatever, from Facebook, I know how those guys convert. We got X number of people from, whatever, a space ad, a banner ad, or have you ever noticed that?
Yeah. Yes, there are sources will affect that a little bit. And also like the type of audience. So like I kind of break my people down into like my hot market, which is like people that are part of the Russell Brunson fan club and they'll buy anything, which is really, really cool. Then there's like the warm market who's like all my friends and they've got followers. And it's like those people who kind of know our business, but they're not into it. And then there's like the cold market, which for me is typically like business opportunity seekers and people that are starting. And so if it's like a newer audience, my numbers would traditionally be lower. And it also on our side is like higher refund rate and higher like support headaches. So we typically don't target the colder audiences on like the webinar, right? Because those people, they screw up my numbers, but then also it's just like, they're not ready for it yet. So if you look at like my business, like that's why I have a lot of front-end offers that we sell to more beginner people because it gets them prepared. So like someone might buy, like we'll promote my .com Secrets book to more of a beginner audience and they read that and they understand like how funnels work and things like that. Then we promote the webinar to them. Now when they show up, like that person is no longer a beginner, right? They've gone from cold audience to like they've been indoctrinated. And so now when we do the webinar, like they're there. So we don't push super cold traffic to the webinar. We push super cold traffic to front-end offers that warm people up. And then from there, push them to the webinar. And that's kind of how I look at it. In fact, this is fascinating. We've got two VCs that keep trying to throw money at us, which is like the funniest thing in the world because we don't want it or need it. And, but we entertain it because it's like so funny to hear them. And they cannot figure out how in the world, like they're like, you are a unicorn. How in the world are you growing this way? Like, it doesn't make sense. And there's a couple of things. One's the webinar, but the second thing, because they always ask like, what's your cost to acquire a customer? I always laugh. I'm like, well, initially we were doing Facebook ads and it's costing us like $110 to get a free trial of Clickfunnels. And they're like, oh, that's awesome. Like we can give you money to help grow that up. I'm like, no, we actually turn those ads off. They're like, what? Like that's an amazing like acquisition rate in the software space. I'm like, yeah, but like I'm spending that money out of my own pocket. Like I don't have dudes like you who are writing checks for me. And so so what we did is we shifted the model where we have these front end funnels, like my book funnel, my webinar funnel, like all these other front end funnels that we sell. And if we do the funnel right, they're profitable. Like for my book right now, on average, it costs us about $15 to sell a book. But then in that funnel, we average about $33 in sales. So for every new customer that comes into my world, we actually make, what's the difference in that? $17 or $12 or whatever that is.
Wow.
So I actually get paid to get that customer. Man. Then they're indoctrinated by reading my book. And then we introduce them to the webinar and then they sign up for Clickfunnels. So we tell the VCs, we're like, so actually we don't pay to acquire customers. They actually come to us, hand us a $10, $12 check, read my book, and then sign up for free. And they're like, that doesn't make any logical sense. And I'm like, yeah, but it's how it's working, and it's amazing. So it's fun to confuse the VCs.
So you bootstrapped this thing yourself. This is built, and it's still being built on an entirely bootstrapped, self-funded budget.
100%. Yep.
No VCs. Wow.
No VCs, and we never will. And it's fun because like we have a bunch of cool things coming out. We have call it Funnel Hacker TV. That's like a new like reality show. We filmed 8 episodes. They're in production now. But like the intro, if you watch, like we make fun of like that's what makes us as a community. It's like we call our people funnel hackers. Like what makes us as a community different is the fact that we're not VC backed. Like we sell things because like we love our customers and we have like we're trying to hold like us versus them with the VCs, which I'm sure they're all gonna be pissed about when they see the stuff, especially the ones that keep messaging us. But I'm like, but like that's what I don't like that. That's the power in funnels. You don't have, if you do it right, like if you learn this process and understand it, like you understand direct response marketing, like you don't need VCs. Like that's the whole magic of why it's important, right? Is you create an offer that gives you a positive ROI, and then you can just dump money back into that. And like anyway, it drives me crazy because everyone we're competing against are all these people targeting direct response marketers, but they don't use direct response marketing. They all have VC money. And so it's like this huge battle of like, all right, here's us bootstrapping the funnel hackers versus like all of you guys. And so you'll see that a lot over the next year coming from us, and we're calling it out and we're making it a big us versus them. And our audience loves that because that's who we are. That's who they are.
That's cool. The David versus Goliath kind of thing. So you'd mentioned like previous businesses, you'd hit that ceiling, like just it takes off, but you hit that ceiling, 1 to 3 million. And so you told us, I mean, you shared basically is we talked with Lee Miltier last week. Do you know Lee or no?
Yeah,
Lee?
awesome. Yep.
Okay. So we talked with her. So So you've gone through all like what she called the left brain stuff, how you, all the good old fashioned, put your head down and work stuff and improve your offer and everything you did there for this kind of growth. But what about, and I want to ask if it was a limiting factor in the previous businesses, what about like, how did you have to grow personally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever you want to call it? How did you have to personally grow to support this kind of growth?
That's a good question. And it's been interesting because it has been a stretch on those things because, going from you hustling, doing some stuff to, in between just like my employees, like we're up to 80 employees now that support Clickfunnels, which is crazy. And then, 30,000 active customers. And it's like, there's a lot of pressure. And, last week we went down for a little bit and it was like, there's stress and there's a lot of those things. And so, I think a big part of it is kind of, it's hard to explain this. And I mentioned this a little earlier, but like I'm actually today finalizing the manuscript for my next book, which is all about this kind of stuff, which I'm excited for people to read because it goes more into that. But you think about in anybody's life, right? Like especially you're growing up, like everyone's very, very conscious of themselves, right? All about like things are all about us, right? When we're growing up, we're a kid, like I got 5 kids, like everything's about them right now. Like the only thing that matters is that they're happy and that's it, right? And so, and most of us, like most of our lives, that's how it is. Like we're trying to grow. And that's not always a bad thing. It's like we're growing, we're learning. And like, but there's a point in your life where like, no matter how much you grow, like personal development can only get so far. And eventually you cannot grow any further by learning or studying or whatever. Like the only way to truly grow is to like start contributing to other people. Like, and like when I started getting that, like, because business for me up to those points, I was like growth, like I'm trying to make money, I'm trying to grow. And when we started doing this, I realized that like, it's like growth is cool, but the only way to continue to grow is by shifting your focus from growth to contribution. So it's like, I need help contribute to other people and then watch them grow. And as they grow, then that's how I grow. I don't know if that it's hard to explain.
It does. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's
as much as all of us make fun of network marketing, that's one of the cool things about that business is like when you, in your network marketing, like you can't, like you go make so much money selling the product, you have to help other people grow for you to make money in that business, which is kind of cool. And I think that when we start looking at our businesses that way, like when I shifted from how's Russell going to make money to like, how do we make this tool the best thing in the world? How do we give our employees the opportunity to be able to achieve their dreams here, right? Because if I wanted to hire the best people, like I can't have a traditional entrepreneur-based company, where I'm the entrepreneur and their employees. Like if I want to recruit good entrepreneurs to be in my business, like how do I make an opportunity for them that they can thrive in? And by doing that, we were to recruit rock stars to grow the company, and how to make it so that our customers can thrive within. I mean, we just, we have our next event coming up and we did a thing to see how many Clickfunnels members, like how much money people are making. And right now we have over 70 people in the last year that made over $1 million inside of Clickfunnels. Nice. Like 70 people become millionaires because of this tool. And there's probably another, 100 or so that are within 100 grand of it. And it's like, and that's not counting all the other people. Like it's so cool that like when you start shifting your focus to that and like the contribution you give to other people, then the weirdest thing happens, then you make more money and you grow on that side. Like it doesn't make logical sense, but like when you shift from focusing on yourself to other people, then you actually get what you were trying to get when you were focusing on yourself. And it's just weird, but
it sounds to me like you've moved beyond the point of this is, I don't know, maybe tell me if you felt this way when you just first launched this, but it sounds like at this point that you've moved beyond this is a business and I'm going to grow it. Now this sounds like it's become a vision because I mean, you're managing, now you're not just a marketer, okay? You still have to do the marketing stuff, but now you're a leader of people. You got employees that are feeding their family because of you, and you're providing an environment in which they can thrive and grow and get excited about life and create opportunities for themselves and grow personally and make more money. And to me, it sounds like you've moved to the point of now this is a vision and this product is big enough that this very likely could and can change the world. And obviously it's changing a lot of people's lives. You got 70 new millionaires. Yeah. But did you have that feeling or that vision when you first started it, or was it just something that developed?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't at first, but it was like as it started happening, I was like, well, there's something cool here, something special that I got to be careful and not do my typical entrepreneur ADD and like shift focus and like I gotta really focus here. And I had partners and friends and people who were part of it. I was like, I owe it to them to really put my heart and soul into this as well. And it's cool. Like in the new book, the book's called Expert Secrets, but it's all about like how to create a mass movement. And so like what's cool about that, like when I was writing it, I started going deep into studying cults and like how how cults were built, how they build mass followings, how they get people to do stuff. And I was looking from the cults from a negative standpoint, but also from a positive standpoint, right? It's interesting. If you look at what Hitler did and how he built the Nazi regime, and you look what Christ did and how he built Christianity, like the parallels and the overlay are like shockingly similar. And so we start studying that. I'm like, man, look at these things. Like, and I noticed that like in all mass movements, positive and negative, doesn't matter what it is. Like there's three core things. There's a charismatic leader, there's a future-based vision, and then there's a new opportunity. Like those three things are in every single thing. And the first half of the book's all about like that. And so you start understanding that. And it's like, man, when I'm in my business, like how do I create that? Like, first thing, like I've got to be a charismatic leader. Like, how do I, what do I need to do to become that person? And that's a piece of this equation. Next thing is like, what's the vision I'm casting for my people? Like, where are my employees, my customers? Like, where are we trying to get to? Like, it's got to be something bigger than us. Otherwise, what's the point, right? Like, it's not going to matter. So it's really understanding that. And when you understand it, start dissecting it and realizing what people are doing, then you can affect that, and you can change it when you're aware of it, right? And then the third thing, and this has been one of the biggest epiphanies for me over the last, probably 2 years. I'm so excited for the book to come out so I can start talking about it with everyone. But most people, when they're selling something, they're typically selling improvement, like how to become better at this, how to lose more weight, how to whatever. And it's like improvement offers are the worst possible thing to sell, right? Like Hitler didn't come in and say, hey, we're gonna lower our taxes because it wasn't fair what they did to us after the First World War. Like Hitler came in and was like, no, like that's messed up. We're not paying these taxes. In fact, we're starting a whole new order, and this is the new way, and shifted everything, right? Same thing with Christ. Christ didn't come in and be like, oh, okay, the law of Moses is good. You should, go do some more animal sacrifices. He's like, no, like the law of Moses is gone. Like this is the new law, the new covenant. This is how things are today. And so for us, if we're trying to build a cult, the joke inside my coach program, I call it culture. Like you want to build a cult, a culture of people, like you have to understand that you can't come in like, okay, we're gonna make things better. Like, no, you have to provide an entirely new opportunity, or else like without that third piece of this wheel, like it is literally impossible to create a mass movement. Like you have to have all those three things. And so when you're aware of that, and you're like, these are the three things I need. Then you look at your existing business, like, hey, what am I missing? What am I doing well? What am I not doing well? And like, as soon as I became aware of these things over the last like year and a half, 2 years, then I started thinking, okay, cool. And I started going in and like making changes and tweaking and starting to make effect on it. And like, it's fascinating how it changes things now. Like it shifts you from being a product and a commodity to being a movement. And when you're a movement, people will do a lot of cool things that they won't do for a product and service,
because they're working towards a bigger.
Yeah,
it's a bigger why.
Yeah.
When's the book coming out, man?
Well, if I get it to if I have the final draft to the editor today, and then it's going to the publisher Friday. Our goal is April 18th is when it'll be going live. But I can get you an advanced copy if you want to check it out. I'm really
man, I'd love to
go through it.
So like, when the book comes out, would you come back on? I mean, we could talk about the book.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome if you want to.
I would love that, because there's gonna be so much. It's hard to like share these cool things because like people haven't read the book yet. It's like there's so much. Like I'm almost like I want to go really deep with you right now, but I'm like I know I can't because like time. But yeah, I would love to after people got the book and then coming after it, and like now we can really get to the cool stuff, because when you understand those things, like it's fascinating. There's so many fun and amazing things that you can do based on that framework when you understand it. So I would love to.
I can't wait to talk about that. I can't wait to read the book. So I got to ask you, I just wrote a little post, or I wrote a little email today for the nights in my Marketing Camelot about head stuff. So I thought I was weird. Well, I am weird, but is in respect to the entrepreneurial life, experiencing these emotional roller coasters, like, and it's so dramatic. It's literally, I'm not using this as an example. Yesterday, I mean it, really, yesterday. I'm just so up, and I'm excited about everything. And just there's unicorns out, there's rainbows, there's there's leprechauns and gold. I'm excited about all the projects I'm working on. I'm sitting here writing copy for one. I'm just like excited. Today was the complete 180-degree opposite. Like, boom, this big emotional crash. And then, you know what? And then tomorrow or in another couple of days, I'll be up again. Or, I'll think, I just found out I got a new control with Agora, so I was up that day. And then the next day, I think I suck. Do you experience that? And maybe it's not that extreme, but if you do, how do you deal with it? And if you don't, then I'm going to feel really bad. Like, yeah, I am.
Like, what happened to you?
Yeah.
No, I think No, yes, definitely I do. And I think the most high achievers do, because we put so much, like I think at least me, I expect a lot out of myself. And when I don't accomplish things, I get down on myself. The thing that's helped me though, because I haven't struggled that as often. And honestly, and this is going to sound kind of cheesy and cliche, but like Tony Robbins had a huge effect on me and my wife and our marriage. And one of the core things I learned from him was state control. Like, how do you control your state? And how do you, I mean, like, have you been to Tony Robbins event? I'm not sure if you've.
It's a sin, but I have not. I'm actually going to correct that this year.
It would be worth the investment of time and money and then everything. But I mean, and for 4 days you're there, you're walking on fire, you're doing all these crazy things, and it's like you're doing things in a state where like typically, I remember by the last day of the event, I had shin splints, I lost my voice completely. I was hungry. I hadn't eaten in like 3 days. And I was like, typically, like, I should be miserable. Yet he was able to get me instantly back into state where I could perform. And it's like, man, when you understand like the power of like how to get into state instantly, like it's not that hard to understand, but when you learn it, I mean, it's been big for me. It's like, it's funny. Like I've talked about this in my podcast before a couple of times, but like there's a lot of cool things I do like associated with state control. Like how do you get yourself in a certain state? Like for me, I have rituals. Like when I get to the office and I'm going to start working, like I do my little stuff and when I'm ready to focus, I call it NZT time, which I'm not sure if you've watched the movie Limitless.
That's a great movie. Yeah.
Or the TV. Have you seen the TV show?
No, I didn't even know there was one until last night when I was surfing around on whichever it was, Amazon or Netflix.
Oh, it is so good. It is like, yeah, I'm praying they come out with season 2 because it was like, anyway, I love it. But regardless, so in the series, so TV show, or excuse me, the movie's one thing. The TV series, there's like a guy who gets NZT and like they have to like limit it. So he works for the FBI. He's a dumb guy all day long. And then he comes into the FBI. They give him an NZT pill. And for 8 hours, he's a genius. And after 8 hours, it goes away. So I look at my day the same way. Like I'm normal, average human, but I got to get like 3 or 4 hours of my day that are just like superhuman time, right? And so I get all the crap out of the way. I get to the office and I say, okay, I'm in NZT time. I need to control my state. So I do it by a couple things. Like I usually drink something with caffeine in it because that gives me a physical change in my physiology. I usually put headphones on. I listen to the same kind of like, not music, but same kind of thing on my ears. I put these like nerdy glasses on, but I do a couple things like that to get me into a state where I'm like, I'm in NZT time. And because I do that so consistently, I know like I can get back to that state no matter how tired, how angry, how upset I am. I'm like, okay, I got to get to work. I get NZT time. I can go, I do my 3 or 4 things, and boom, instantly I'm in that state and I can go and I can perform there. So then when I come home at night, I'm usually tired, I'm worn out. And I know when I come through the door, like I've got 5 of the most amazing, cool kids in the world. I know when I walk in, they're going to want me to be dad. And I'm like, I'm tired. But as soon as I get that door, I'm like, okay, I got to change my state. And I do some stuff. I get in state and then I walk through that door and like, I'm dad and I can be present for my kids. But it's all like learning that stuff. So it's worth going to Tony for nothing else. If you learn like how to master state control, it's pretty exciting. So yeah.
I love that NZT time. I'm going to totally swipe that from you.
That you should.
You know, there's a book called Borrowed Genius by a guy named Win Wanger. Have you ever checked that out?
I never heard of it. No.
It's an old book, but it's a cool thing. One of the things he talks about in that book is like, listen, whatever skills you want from somebody else, you know, he goes through the whole process. I'll screw it up if I try to tell you, but basically, you know, he tells you just assume those skills. And even like you can visualize you stepping into their body and all of a sudden, you know, their brain is now your brain, you know, like, so I imagine myself stepping into like Gary Halbert's body or Gary Benzavenga's body, you know, from behind. Of course, I ask permission first and they're like, yeah, come on, man, let's write some copy. And it's amazing what he's found that people can do when they do that. And I like that NZT time because to me, like I can visualize, what's his name? I forget the actor in the movie. Do you remember his name?
Bradley Cooper.
Yeah. So like I can imagine, I'm just picturing him taking the NZT and like how boom, he just turned into Superman and had the super brain. And I'm going to totally try that, man. That's like exactly what I was looking for.
And you'll be more handsome too.
In my mind.
In your mind.
Like Brad. Hey, man, I had a blast, Russell. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
So I hope you'll come back.
Definitely. Let me get this book done and we'll come back and have some fun with it.
I will look forward to it. So thanks again, man. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot. And Jonathan, thanks for co-piloting this deal today.
Yeah. So Russell, really quickly, if anybody wants to find out more about you, is it clickfunnels.com or should they go elsewhere?
Yeah, clickfunnels.com will get you more about ClickFunnels. If you just go to like russellbrunson.com, you learn more about me and links to all my books and all that kind of stuff from there.
Okay, russellbrunson.com. Awesome. All right, thank you. That is a wrap for another Off the Chain show. We will be back with you next time, K9 Crew. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to create rivers of revenue from your existing customers, then the next thing you need to do is go to DobermanDan.com. He's given away a free copy of his $98 per month Doberman Dan letter just for listening to the show. Go to DobermanDan.com now and sign up for your free issue.
This is the podcastfactory.com.